I believed my birthday celebration would be the start of a brighter chapter. My divorce had been brutal, but I reclaimed half my fortune and planned a lavish party to mark freedom and resilience. Friends and family filled my home, smiling, hugging, raising toasts, but beneath the glitter and laughter, betrayal lurked. I watched my daughter-in-law, Lacey, pretending to adjust decorations while her hand hovered over my glass. A small vial, a subtle pour, and a quick glance around. She thought no one noticed. But I did. When she turned away, I switched our drinks. I didn't panic. I waited. And within minutes, everything she planned for me began unfolding on her instead. My name is Genevieve Morgan, and at 64 years old, I wanted my birthday to symbolize more than candles and cake. It marked survival, escaping a controlling marriage, regaining half my fortune, and reclaiming a life I almost forgot was mine. I spent weeks planning a lavish soiree, crystal chandeliers, live music, gourmet catering, and floral arrangements that filled the house with fragrance. Friends traveled from different cities, eager to celebrate my independence. I felt proud watching my staff perfect every detail. Yet, amidst all the glitter, I sensed tension within my family, especially from my daughter-in-law, Lacey. Her smiles were stiff, her hugs hollow. I brushed it aside then, unaware that tonight would reveal intentions darker than jealousy. Guests arrived in shimmering gowns and tailored suits, filling the room with laughter, toasts, and violin melodies. She moved through the crowd gracefully, receiving compliments for the decor and the luxurious ambience. Her son, Michael, poured champagne and announced speeches, while staff circulated hors d'oeuvres. But beneath the glamour, she noticed subtle dynamics, the way Lacey clung to Michael's arm yet kept watching her with a strange intensity. She tried to enjoy the evening and greet old friends, but every time she met Lacey's eyes, she felt a prickle of discomfort. Something wasn't right. Still, she chose to remain poised. This night was hers, after all. Throughout the evening, Lacey's behavior became increasingly suspicious. She wandered away from guests, lingered near the bar, and whispered urgently into her phone. Her eyes darted around the room as if waiting for something. When Genevieve approached, she forced a smile too wide and offered compliments too rehearsed. She noticed Lacey's trembling fingers as she adjusted decorations that didn't need fixing. Meanwhile, Michael seemed oblivious, focused on maintaining appearances. The unease grew heavier. She tried to reassure herself. Perhaps nerves, jealousy, or insecurity were causing it, but a quiet instinct told her it was more than moodiness. It was deliberate, calculated, the moment that shattered doubt came near the bar. She stood behind a pillar speaking to a friend when she saw Lacey remove a small vial from her clutch. The liquid inside shimmered under the lights, too clear, too intentional to be innocent. Lacey glanced over her shoulder before reaching toward a champagne flute, her flute resting beside the cake table. Her pulse quickened. She strained to stay calm, processing the implication. Why? What motive could justify drugging her? Was it envy? Money? Resentment over inheritance? She refused to react impulsively. Instead, she watched closely, storing each detail like evidence. She waited until Lacey turned to greet a relative, then moved with quiet swiftness. She approached the table, switched the flutes, and returned them exactly as they were positioned, nothing disturbed. The act took seconds, but her heart pounded for minutes. She did not call attention or confront anyone. She needed truth, not theatrics. Her calmness wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Let the trap reveal itself. If Lacey wanted to harm her, let her answer for her actions. Now, the stage was set, not for celebration, but for exposure. When Lacey returned and grabbed the glass, she didn't hesitate. She raised it high, pretending to toast Genevieve's happiness. Within moments of drinking, her expression faltered. The confident smile twitched, her fingers loosened, and her color faded. She staggered, clutching the table for balance. Gasps rippled through the room as guests noticed. Panic, confusion, and concern replaced the festive atmosphere. Genevieve remained composed, watching closely. The poison's target had changed, and now its effects told the truth no accusation could. The room erupted into chaos. Guests surrounded Lacey as she collapsed onto a sofa, trembling and pale. Michael shouted for help, his voice cracking with fear. Someone dialed emergency services while others moved furniture aside. She stood a short distance away, expression controlled, mind racing. Should she reveal the switch, confront Michael? Wait for the hospital's report? The answers mattered. One wrong move could turn suspicion onto her. The party she had dreamed of turned into a crime scene of her daughter-in-law's own making. And in that moment she knew, this night would unravel more than a simple betrayal. The paramedics arrived quickly, lifting Lacey onto a stretcher as guests whispered theories. She watched silently, resisting the urge to intervene too soon. If she revealed her switch now, panic could overshadow the truth. Instead, she observed reactions. Michael's horror, relatives' confusion, and Lacey's labored breathing. At the hospital, doctors rushed tests, suspecting intoxication or poisoning. Michael clung to his mother, pleading for answers she pretended not to have yet. She knew timing mattered. If she spoke too early, it could look malicious; too late, careless. She needed tangible proof, not speculation. So she waited, present, alert, and ready for what the test would reveal. Back at the party venue, guests scattered with anxious chatter while close family gathered in a private room. Her sister asked if she had noticed anything unusual, and she simply said, "I saw her drinking from the wrong glass." It wasn't a lie, just a partial truth. Michael couldn't understand why Lacey would collapse so violently, and suspicion hung in everyone's eyes. The once celebratory night now simmered with tension. She kept calm, but her mind catalogued everything: reactions, alliances, panic. The confusion was a veil, and behind it she intended to expose motive. Within hours, the whispers turned into accusations. Some speculated Lacey had been targeted, while others subtly implied the attack was meant for Genevieve. She heard her own name mentioned, shadowed by allegations. She didn't react. Instead, she asked questions. Why would anyone want to harm Lacey? Who stood to gain? Her demeanor remained poised, allowing suspicion to circulate long enough to highlight desperation. If someone tried framing her, it would show. And if Lacey was acting alone, guilt would surface under pressure. Either way, the truth demanded patience. She requested the estate staff to review security footage discreetly. Hours of recordings were examined, but one clip stood out: Lacey near the drinks, glancing around before pouring something into a flute. The footage wasn't clear enough to identify the substance, but it was damning. She didn't reveal it immediately. Instead, she sent the clip to her lawyer and stored a copy. Evidence secured. She was no longer reacting emotionally, she was building a case. And a courtroom, not a gossip circle, would be where the truth prevailed. Whispers about inheritance surfaced. Lacey had often hinted that Genevieve's wealth would someday secure the family. Combined with recent divorce and regained fortune, the timing was questionable. She remembered arguments where Lacey pressed Michael about estate planning and wills. Small comments now felt sinister. She wondered if others were involved or if desperation was solitary. The motive wasn't fully clear yet, but greed was a strong possibility. Michael felt torn. His love for Lacey clashed with shock and fear. His trust in his mother warred with denial. He oscillated between concern for his wife and suspicion of the circumstances. She saw his internal conflict and remained compassionate, not accusatory. She understood manipulation could cloud judgment. She lived through that in her marriage. She let him process, knowing his conclusions would matter deeply once evidence surfaced. By dawn, medical reports indicated foreign substances, sedatives, not alcohol. Combined with footage, witness observations, and motive clues, a narrative took shape. She didn't celebrate the breakthrough. Betrayal, even exposed, still wounds. But the foundations were laid. The switch, the footage, the toxicology, and her calm reaction all created a timeline Lacey couldn't easily deny. The party was over. The investigation had begun. When questioned privately, Lacey's unease turned into defensiveness. She muttered fragmented excuses, claiming exhaustion, stress, even allergies. But when pressed gently, her mask cracked. She blurted out fears that Genevieve planned to change her will after the divorce, cutting her son, and therefore Lacey, out of the inheritance. The admission didn't excuse her actions, it exposed them. Greed masqueraded as security. She didn't consider Genevieve's well-being, only her access to wealth. The revelation confirmed a motive powerful enough to justify betrayal. It wasn't a moment of triumph, it was a moment of grief. Because hidden beneath entitlement was something worse: the willingness to harm for money. Under increasing pressure, Lacey attempted a half-confession, claiming she meant only to calm Genevieve, not harm her. She insisted the sedative was harmless and meant to make her rest, yet her trembling voice and evasive eyes betrayed her intentions. She tried to twist sympathy, painting herself as overwhelmed and misunderstood, but she couldn't explain why she hid the vial or acted in secrecy if her intentions were innocent. The partial confession only deepened suspicion. It revealed fear, but not remorse. And the absence of genuine accountability made her position weaker, not stronger. As investigations continued, it became clear that inheritance wasn't the only motive. Financial records revealed alarming debt tied to Lacey: credit cards maxed out, payday loans, and secret purchases masked as business expenses. She had been drowning financially, hiding the truth from Michael. Her desperation for quick money hardened into a reckless plot to secure access to Genevieve's fortune. The motive expanded beyond greed into panic. Debts weren't just unpaid, they were attached to threats, collection agencies, and possible legal action. The magnitude of her financial crisis exposed a level of risk no one had imagined. As evidence grew, questions surfaced. Was Lacey acting alone, or had someone else encouraged or assisted her? Genevieve noticed suspicious conversations between Lacey and one of Michael's friends, an accountant with access to sensitive financial information. Staff recalled seeing him visit Lacey days before the party. While not enough to accuse outright, the pattern hinted at conspiracy. Whether he advised, funded, or merely knew, complicity couldn't be ruled out. The betrayal might not be isolated, it could be part of a broader scheme. And uncovering accomplices became as critical as proving intent. Genevieve's lawyer, a sharp and composed professional, stepped in to structure the investigation. Witness statements were gathered, footage preserved, and medical reports requested. Lacey was advised to secure her own counsel, signaling escalation. The lawyer emphasized one thing: emotions must not cloud evidence. Genevieve understood. She didn't seek revenge. She sought protection and truth. Legal involvement brought clarity. It shifted the narrative from family drama to criminal concern. And the more organized the case became, the more cornered Lacey felt, scrambling for excuses in a tightening net. The official toxicology results arrived, confirming sedatives strong enough to cause significant impairment, especially combined with alcohol. The doctor stated plainly, had Genevieve consumed the drink, her life might have been endangered. The room went silent as medical authorities stripped away excuses. It was no longer speculation, it was attempted harm. Lacey's complexion drained as reality hit. She hadn't just acted recklessly, she had crossed a criminal threshold. The truth became undeniable, forcing everyone to confront the severity of her actions. Rumors leaked beyond the household. Community members, once impressed by Lacey's polished demeanor, began gossiping. Questions about the emergency at the party circulated. While the story wasn't public yet, whispers damaged her immaculate reputation. She had built her social standing on charm and pretense, but beneath it lay deception. With evidence mounting and toxicology confirming danger, even allies distanced themselves. The threat wasn't just legal, it was social. The fallout exposed something she feared more than prosecution: public shame. When Genevieve's lawyer finally confronted Lacey in a formal meeting, the tone shifted from emotional turmoil to legal gravity. The attorney presented the compiled evidence: security footage, witness statements, toxicology reports, and financial debt records. Lacey attempted to deny involvement, but each piece of proof boxed her in tighter. Her voice shook as she tried to blame stress, depression, or misunderstanding, but the lawyer countered with facts, not feelings. There was no room left for manipulation. Michael sat in the corner, silent and pale, absorbing every word. The confrontation wasn't aggressive, it was precise, professional, and devastating. And for the first time, Lacey realized this wasn't a family squabble. It was a criminal matter. Later that night, Michael approached his mother alone, tears in his eyes. He apologized, not only for the party, but for months of ignoring warning signs. He admitted he sensed Lacey's obsession with wealth, but never imagined she would cross into criminality. Shame weighed heavily on him, love had blinded him. She didn't lash out. Instead, she explained betrayal is rarely sudden, it's built through choices and silence. Michael asked what he should do, and she told him the truth. Loyalty doesn't mean protecting wrongdoing, it means facing it. The conversation marked a turning point. He stopped defending Lacey and began defending integrity. Realizing how vulnerable her estate had become, she met with her lawyer to revise her will. She included safeguards, trusts for grandchildren, charitable allocations, and clauses that prevented future manipulation. She didn't exclude Michael, but she ensured no spouse could access her wealth through marriage alone. The modification wasn't punishment, it was protection. She recognized that money often fuels entitlement and danger. By securing her assets responsibly, she preserved her legacy while reducing the risk of future harm. It was an act of foresight, not spite. For the first time, she felt control, not over others, but over her own future. The family fractured under the pressure. Relatives split into factions, some defending Lacey out of ignorance or denial, others siding with Genevieve based on evidence. Arguments erupted at gatherings, and long-held grievances resurfaced. She observed, saddened but unsurprised. Wealth reveals character, and in this case it exposes envy and entitlement. She stopped defending herself and let facts speak. The division hurt, but she didn't chase validation. Instead, she recognized that boundaries were necessary. Some relationships would heal, others would fall away. But for the first time, those choices were hers, not forced by marriage or manipulation. Authorities officially opened a case when toxicology results were shared, and the footage was handed over. Lacey could no longer hide behind excuses. Investigators questioned her, and her legal counsel shifted from defensive to damage control. The illusion she curated, perfect wife, devoted mother-in-law, crumbled. Friends distanced themselves, acquaintances whispered about attempted poisoning. Her social standing collapsed faster than her lies. She wasn't shamed because of wealth she lacked, but because of the cruelty she wielded to grasp it. Exposure was no longer personal, it was public. The community's reaction was swift and unforgiving. Invitations disappeared. Online posts condemned her actions. Parents at her children's school avoided her. Even those who once sought her approval quietly erased ties. She experienced firsthand how society responds when image is shattered by wrongdoing. Meanwhile, Genevieve received sympathy, but not pity. People recognized strength in her calm handling of betrayal. The contrast between their reputations grew stark. Justice wasn't only happening in courts, it was unfolding socially, revealing who stood on principle and who crumbled under scrutiny. As legal proceedings advanced, Genevieve secured full control of her estate, reputation, and boundaries. The attempted manipulation had backfired spectacularly, strengthening protections, relationships, and her confidence. She was no longer reacting to betrayal, she was shaping outcomes. Financial advisors reported to her, lawyers deferred to her judgment, and family members realized she wasn't just a wealthy matriarch, she was a strategist. She didn't need revenge to win, she needed clarity, and she had achieved it. If you've stayed with me through this chaos, don't forget to like and subscribe, because what comes next reveals closure nobody expected. Lacey's case moved forward swiftly. Prosecutors charged her with attempted harm and administering sedatives without consent. Her lawyer negotiated a plea to avoid extended prison time, but the court still imposed penalties: probation, community service, mandatory counseling, and a restraining order. Her once polished image was reduced to headlines about greed and betrayal. She lost her position in community organizations and faced scrutiny wherever she went. She discovered the hard truth: consequences aren't always dramatic, they can be painfully mundane. She wasn't ruined by Genevieve's actions, she was undone by her own choices. And in those consequences, justice felt balanced, not vengeful. Michael, now separated from Lacey, returned to his mother not as a defender, but as a son humbled by reality. He apologized for ignoring warning signs and for allowing love to blind him. He admitted fear of losing both his wife and mother had clouded judgment. Genevieve didn't punish him with anger. She allowed space for sincere remorse. She reminded him that reconciliation isn't about erasing the past, it's about learning from it. Their bond, damaged but not destroyed, began rebuilding through honesty and accountability. For the first time in months, she saw her son's true self, not manipulated but compassionate. With overwhelming evidence and irreconcilable trust broken, Michael filed for legal separation, which later led to annulment. It wasn't just a legal step, it was emotional closure. He realized love built on secrets and financial ambition isn't love at all. Their marriage dissolved without theatrics, just paperwork, signatures, and quiet acceptance. Lacey, faced with court mandates and public backlash, didn't fight. She knew the outcome was inevitable. The dissolution marked a turning point not only for Michael but for Genevieve, who witnessed her family replace denial with clarity. Painful, yes, but necessary. Despite everything, Genevieve refused to let her grandchildren suffer the consequences of adult choices. She ensured they had stability, arranging counseling, securing education funds, and creating a nurturing environment during the turmoil. She shielded them from details, offering love rather than bitterness. Her actions taught them a lesson no courtroom could: compassion doesn't require forgetting, but it refuses to punish the innocent. She became their anchor, soft when needed, firm when necessary. Helping them heal gave her purpose beyond wealth or legacy. It reminded her that family can fracture, but it can also grow roots in new soil. Months later, Lacey requested a supervised meeting. Her appearance was humbled: no designer clothes, no rehearsed confidence. She apologized sincerely, her voice trembling, acknowledging greed, fear, and insecurity drove her choices. Genevieve didn't excuse or embrace her, but she listened. Sometimes, closure arrives not through triumph, but through understanding. Lacey left knowing forgiveness wasn't owed, but reflection was earned. For Genevieve, the apology wasn't a reconciliation, it was confirmation that wisdom outlasts cruelty. It allowed her to release lingering anger, not for Lacey's sake, but for her own. Free from marriage manipulation and family betrayal, she built a legacy defined by integrity. She expanded her charitable efforts, created scholarships for women leaving abusive marriages, and established legal aid funds for victims of financial coercion. Wealth no longer symbolized control, it became a tool for empowerment. People admired her not for fortune, but for foresight. She didn't rebuild her life on bitterness, she built it on wisdom earned through hardship. Her independence wasn't loud, it was steady, influential, and purposeful. On her next birthday, she hosted a smaller gathering, intimate, genuine, and joyful. No lavish displays, no hidden agendas. Surrounded by true friends and family who valued character over wealth, she made a simple toast: to lessons learned, to peace earned, and to the courage to choose growth over revenge. She realized closure wasn't the courtroom verdict, or social consequences, or even apology. Closure was the moment she chose to move forward without bitterness. Betrayal didn't define her. Wisdom did, and with that, she stepped into the next chapter, not as a victim or avenger, but as a woman who rose with clarity and dignity.